Poland elected a new president on June 1st. Karol Nawrocki, the right-wing candidate affiliated with the country's conservative Law and Justice Party, won with the slimmest of margins. But he didn't do it alone. CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, held its first ever event in Poland just days before the final vote. Once a solely American event, CPAC has expanded across the globe and brings with it the influence and tactics of the American conservatives to new political arenas. Welcome to the politics of New America. On today's show, we look at the growing global influence of the American conservative movement and their efforts on the political contests in Europe and beyond. I'm your host, Nathan Stone, and with me as always is producer Josh Carmody.
Yep. I wish I had something well and prepared for this, but I am so out of the loop on what we're going to talk about today. So I'm just here to learn.
All right. Well, there's a lot to it, and we're going far from our normal shores on this one because we're going to start off in Poland, which is not a place we usually go on this show. Speaking as a host of a, American political podcast. But it's really important that we discuss this because the Polish federal election, might have gotten lost in the news of this week. And what a wild week this has been. Oh, my goodness.
Trump and Elon just crash it out. Just like both sitting on the toilet, texting each other like over Truth Social and X. Oh, it's crazy. It's great. It's like Alien versus Predator, except the Predator is like in an old folks home and incontinent, and the alien is like the weird alien human hybrid from the new movie, but it's like also in a K-hole. So it's some real crazy shit.
It sure is. And so we're gonna leave the U.S. This week, and although everything that's gone on could fill 100 weekly briefs, but unfortunately I don't have the time to make them all. So we're gonna go to someplace a little bit saner, which is Poland. And if you missed it, on June the 1st, the Polish went to the polls. That's a little confusing. And they elected a new president. And this is now the way Polish politics works is that the president is affiliated with a party, but not really a member of the party. So the parties will endorse a candidate, but the president isn't technically a member of that party. So
it's like they got hit with like a flavor boost. It's
exactly.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, here's your flavor shot.
Yeah. So he's aligned with a right-wing populist party, Law and Justice, or their acronym is PIS, because it's different in Polish, obviously. And he won 50.89% of the vote, defeating the liberal candidate who was the mayor of Warsaw, who was actually the favorite to win for a long time. Now, the result isn't actually remaking Polish politics because the Law and Justice Party has had a 10-year occupancy of the presidency. And he's a new candidate, but he's also representing this party that's been in power for a long time. What is unfortunate, I think, for the Polish people who were looking for reform and change is that their prime minister, Donald Tusk, he's a reformist. He is not associated with the Law and Justice Party. He has been trying to get rid of some of the reforms that the Law and Justice Party brought in because they are very anti-democratic over the last 10 years. And that's going to be a lot harder for him to do. So you have a prime minister and a president that are very much at odds. But without going too far into it, it's a vote against change for Poland, basically. There's a lot of things that have been going on over the last 10 years that are kind of democratic backsliding in Poland. And so it's one of those things where you kind of have to be there to know about it. And I didn't until I was researching this.
It's the Woodstock of politics.
It really, yeah. So his election on its own, fine. It is what it is. Poland is a fairly conservative country as well, so not a hugely surprising outcome. But what is surprising is that it was heavily influenced in the last few days by the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC. And CPAC for a long time was solely an American event. A bunch of American conservatives get together, they talk policy, they get each other hyped up, and
is it like the Comic-Con of like Republican politics? Is that
a little bit? Yeah. It's
cool, I wasn't totally sure. So.
Yeah, you get a lot of the kind of the heavy hitters in the movement there, and it's a rally plus networking plus policy discussion. It's kind of a big celebration of American conservatism. And it was started all the way back in 74, and it's been going annually since then. But lately, CPAC has started branching out. And they've started holding conferences in foreign countries that are American allies. So the very first foreign CPAC was in Japan in 2017. But since then, they've hit Argentina, Brazil, Hungary. I am apparently a little hungry, Hungary, Australia, Mexico, South Korea, and just before the election, the first ever CPAC in Poland.
And are those countries, are they all kind of typically conservative leaning, or not really? It's kind of a scattershot.
Yeah, so Brazil and Argentina for sure do the big flip-flops. Mm-hmm. So Argentina has flipped from very kind of socialist progressive to anarcho-capitalist melee very recently. Brazil has gone back and forth. You remember Bolsonaro probably, and his own little kind of January 6th thing that happened. That kind of got lost a little bit, but he actually got prosecuted for that. So good
wow,
going,
crazy
Brazil.
Politicians getting prosecuted for insurrection. What a world.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, Hungary, though, very conservative. Viktor Orban, the president of Hungary, was actually at the Polish CPAC. And so he's been in power for quite some time. Australia, as a liberal democracy, tends to kind of go, centrist, conservative, maybe left-leaning occasionally. Mexico, that is probably the most left-leaning country right now on this list. And then South Korea, I honestly could not tell you. I believe they are fairly socially, politically conservative as well. So these are all nations that are at least have conservative movements that are able to contest and win elections, right? Mm-hmm. Even if they don't win every election.
Yeah.
So May 29th is when CPAC did its big show in Poland. And Viktor Orban, the president of Hungary, was the keynote speaker. And he is very good buddies with Trump. They kind of have the same sort of playbook that they use politically. And he actually spent some of the time up on stage praising Trump, as one does. And he called Trump, the Trump tsunami swept through the entire world. And it gave back hope to the world.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, and we are no longer suffocating in the woke sea. So
the woke sea.
The woke sea.
Oh, man.
We were drowning, and we got a big orange life preserver, and he carried us to shore.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And speaking of Trump, he actually he wasn't in attendance, but he did send a nice video message. Where he praised the event, of course, and Orban himself. So it's a big love-in. Trump clearly needs a rebound, and I think it could be Orban. So if you don't know Orban and the kind of person that he is, he has used his party's... They basically have a supermajority in the Hungarian parliament. To attack the judiciary, crack down on independent media, demonize migrants and LGBTQ plus folks. And if that sounds familiar, Good. It should.
Yeah.
So he wasn't the only one, though. You gotta fill out a whole conference. Can't just be Orban on stage the whole time. So the other kind of notable folks at CPAC Poland included the leader of Germany's far-right AfD party, Alice Weidel, the leader of a Dutch far-right party, the Party for Freedom, Geert Wilders, and somehow former Prime Minister of the UK for, I think, the length of time it took a cabbage to decompose, Liz Truss.
Was it? Did they do that for Liz Truss, or was
I think that was Liz Truss.
I remember when they did that. I think they spent like 60 cents on a cabbage and it didn't decompose before they were out of office. Oh man.
Now, Liz Truss, I would love to do. I'll never get to do a whole episode on Liz Truss because it is not relevant in any way, shape, or form to our podcast. But my God, would I love to talk about her career and the things she gets up to nowadays.
Oh, well, we're going to just have to start making the Politics of New America cinematic universe and just have like spin-off podcasts that are like one-shots and things like that.
Liz Truss Power Hour. That's going to be my one shot.
Get trust.
Now, it wasn't all politicians. Also, we had the social media influencer and TV host, I believe, Ben Shapiro. And
he's not on TV.
Is he not on TV?
No, he has his own production company. I believe they're the Daily Wire.
Oh, yes.
And so they because I remember when Gina Carano kind of lost her spot at Disney because she wouldn't stop saying inflammatory stuff about trans people. The Daily Wire was like, well, we're going to make hot conservative movies with you in them. And then guess what? Conservatives hated those movies because she's a woman.
Hoisted by your own petard.
Truly.
Yeah. So Ben Shapiro was there. Also, Jack Posobiec. We've talked about him before. Last time he was on featured on our show, he was at the CPAC conference in the United States, bragging about the end of democracy and how they were going to replace it, and that they didn't quite get there on January 6th, but they were gonna do it.
We're gonna do democracy too.
Yeah,
electric boogaloo
without the democracy.
Back in the habit.
So it's a wild cast, and I think anytime you have a conference, whether or not it's Comic-Con or CPAC or what have you, always you can judge a conference or some kind of meeting by who they platform. And so in this case, I mean, this is the people that they have chosen as kind of leaders and thinkers in not just the American conservative movement, but the European conservative movement. And it really only represents what I guess we would used to call the far right. I think that might just be the right now. But yeah, just to give you an idea, this was in Poland, but it was still kind of very American. And to understand, why this American conservative conference would want to kind of reach its tendrils out globally, we kind of have to figure out who is behind it, right? Because CPAC isn't just its own thing. It's not like the Olympics. It doesn't just organize itself and go. It is the child of the American Conservative Union. And these folks you may not have heard of, because most people have heard of CPAC, at least in passing. Yeah. The American Conservative Movement has been around for quite some time. They came into being on December 18th, 1964. And they advocate for conservative policies. They also rank politicians based on their level of conservatism, which I will talk more about. It's hilarious and fun. And if you want to waste some time, they have a great website for this.
Oh, boy.
But it also organizes CPAC. It calls itself the oldest ongoing conservative lobbying organization in the United States. Now, founded December 18th, 1964. That's an interesting date. Not particularly for, what happened on the day itself, But why would an American conservative union just spontaneously form in 1964? Well, in July of 1964, something really fun happened, and that was the Civil Rights Act came into law. And very quickly, we saw the blowback from that. And there was blowback.
Yeah.
So much so that it caused at least one national emergency, some National Guard coming in to desegregate schools. There was so much opposition to the Civil Rights Act, endless filibusters and nonsense in Congress.
Assassinations.
Yeah, when it finally went through, the American conservative movement, I think, finally realized that we are losing the battle politically and socially. And I think the American Conservative Union does not exist without the Civil Rights Act coming into force. I think it was part of that blowback. Now, they do all sorts of things in the background, and they have their kind of hooks into the Republican Party, of course, in various ways, shapes, and forms. But also lobbying groups. They have a lot of connections with a lot of different conservative groups in the United States. Now, they have 3 sub-entities within the ACU. So the American Conservative Union Foundation is the organization that hosts CPAC. There's a ACU Political Action Committee, which is which formally endorses and funds conservative candidates for federal and state level offices. And finally, there is the ACU, just kind of with its own name, which conducts lobbying. So they, under these 3 things, they hold their conference, they lobby the government for conservative issues, and then they fund conservatives who they believe in.
Kind of the political equivalent to 3 kids in a trench coat.
Very much, yeah. If each one of those kids had, was like texting different people, and like some of them were handing out money, and some of them were scolding politicians for not being conservative enough. That is basically it. Yeah.
That, or it's like the dude from Total Recall that has Quato in him. So the main one is the main head of the ACU, and then different versions of Quato come out. It's like, Quaid, we have to stop the welfare queens, Quaid.
So that is kind of them in a nutshell. Their website. And I forgot the link, but honestly, it's very easy to find. They have a website to help you know how each member of Congress and each bill that's going through Congress rates on their scale of conservativeness.
This reminds me of like those Parents Television Council websites where you can go find out like, oh, what do they think about, whatever major TV show, but like it's rated for like Christians. Like,
Yeah.
That's what this is reminding me of.
It's not dissimilar from that, I'm going to tell you. So members are rated from liberal, which is the lowest rating one can achieve. And by their name, you get it says liberal, and it gives you a little thumbs down, so you know it's bad. And those are in blue. To conservative, which is a nice little red bar with a thumbs up. Now, there are also little awards that a congressperson can win by being a super conservative, right? So they rate everyone. If you have over 80%, you get a little silver bar by your name that is says conservative achievement. So you've done well. You've done well. However, if you're in that 90% range, and I know that Congress people are just like hitting refresh on this every day just to see if they can get there. You get a little gold bar that says conservative excellence.
Oh man, a real Republican, not a Republican.
Yeah, honestly, this website's a lot of fun to poke around. You might have some fun with it. Also, really good resource unintentionally to look at people's voting records. So if you kind of want to know how your congressperson has voted and you don't really care about their conservativeness rating, it's not a bad one to
That's
poke
actually
around.
pretty interesting. Yeah.
So that is the American Conservative Union, but we should talk about the head of the union, Matthew Schlapp. Now he served in the Bush administration, the second Bush administration, W, and so he was also Donald Trump's director of strategic communications in his first term.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's actually caused a bit of a rift within the conservative movement and the ACU because of the various scandals that he has been involved in, specifically various sexual assault allegations. And these are quite recent. Yeah. So the first of them that came to light was in 2023. And this was a campaign staffer that alleged that Schlapp groped him after Schlapp had been drinking. But that wasn't all of it. There was, in August 23, 2 additional allegations of sexual assault by Schlapp against male staffers were reported to the Washington Post. And CPAC was actually sued about covering up additional allegations at that time. In 2024, the lawsuit had been dropped, or Schlapp announced that the lawsuit had been dropped. It turned out, though, that he actually settled. It wasn't dropped. He settled to the tune of almost $500,000. And in February of this year, Schlapp was accused of sexually assaulting a man at a bar in Sperryville, in Virginia. And apparently he made multiple bar patrons uncomfortable before groping a man's genitals and being kicked out of the bar.
As you do.
As you do. Who hasn't been there, right? you grope a few guys and you get kicked out.
Let's not incriminate ourselves here.
So he is a very polarizing figure, unsurprisingly, amongst the American conservative movement. He is still currently the chairman of the ACU, and it's one of those things where you get this information, you're like, really, guys? Like, we're all good with this, huh? But there was actually a little bit of fallout involving this. The vice chair, Charlie Giroux, resigned in 2023 after the first allegations. I believe also that year there was a split where another group went off to form its own conference without Schlapp in a different kind of setting.
We're gonna make our own CPAC with blackjack and hookers.
That's right. It might just be normal CPAC.
Yeah. And it's just crazy that, like, it says a lot about a political movement that people continue to get into this kind of trouble and they don't really ever kind of drop them, like, or at least if they do, it's not quickly. And it's like, really, you guys can't find anybody else who supports your cause that isn't a rapist?
Yeah, it's wild. And I find that about modern conservatism, where there seems to be almost an infinite level of forgiveness, or maybe not even forgiveness, but just maybe to forgive, you have to care in the first place.
I think it's that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just doesn't seem like they do, especially for the ACU, which espouses very traditional values. And, one of those big traditional values being heterosexuality. Mm-hmm. And so it's wild that he hasn't faced more of a backlash than he has. So I feel like, just to give us a little bit of context on what CPAC has been up to recently. For a long, long time, from 74 onwards, CPAC wouldn't have made a lot of news. It would have been kind of your average Republican, small government. Let's talk about welfare queens. Let's talk about privatization. Everything that standard conservatism likes and was about. But Trump changed that, like he changes pretty much anything that comes into contact with him. And CPAC recently has been a bit more of a party mixed with more far right leaning and more socially conservative, I think, than it probably would have been in the past. If you went to a CPAC in the 90s, you probably would have been bored stiff. You go to CPAC now, and it's like YouTube in there, right? Like it's
Oh
social
yeah, the
media.
'90s
It's
it would
those
have
kind
been
of
Newt
things.
Gingrich just complaining about Bill Clinton and,
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in 2023, it was held in Maryland. You had a lot of kind of big conservative names here, but Trump was there, and this, of course, is in between presidencies. And this is where he said, he wouldn't withdraw from the 2024 presidential race if he was indicted as a result of the federal and state investigations. And he said, in 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today, I add, I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution, which is very biblical. But also during the 2023 conference, Michael Knowles, who is a political commentator, called for the elimination of transgenderism, arguing that those who identify as transgender are laboring a delusion, and we need to correct that delusion. He further stated, there can be no middle way in dealing with transgenderism. For the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who have fallen prey to this confusion, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. And so that made the news, unsurprisingly, and kind of threw CPAC into the limelight, because a lot of people described that language as genocidal, which, honestly, it sounds in that ballpark. The 2024 CPAC was notable because it featured Liz Truss. Again, she gets around.
Get trust.
But this was the CPAC where Jack Posobiec made his speech about welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here.
Democracy 2, the quickening.
Because all glory is not to the government, all glory is to God. So that, again, another controversy coming out of CPAC. And again, we see the kind of takeover of the MAGA movement out of CPAC, right? We're not talking about old school republicanism anymore. We're talking about culture warriors. We're talking about all of their kind of pet issues like transgenderism. And also notably in 2024, several neo-Nazis were able to secure badges to get into the event and walk the floor. And they were not ejected, unlike previous years where I guess they got in and were ejected. So, we softened on the Nazi thing in 2024 for CPAC. And then 2025, this was the Elon Musk chainsaw picture. That was CPAC. Yeah. And so Liz Truss also on this one. I don't know how she got onto the circuit for CPAC, but she is really, really milking it. But Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, gave Musk that chainsaw. Steve Bannon spoke. If you know Steve Bannon, he's at all the CPACs though. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, good old alcoholic Steve Bannon.
Yeah, this was also the CPAC that gave us Elon's Nazi salute. Or no, sorry.
No, yeah, that was
the Trump inauguration.
That was the Trump inauguration.
It gave us the Steve Bannon Nazi salute. I'm sorry.
Oh yes.
You get so many Nazi salutes you can't keep track anymore. I apologize. At CPAC 2025, right, we've seen this kind of, the MAGAification of CPAC, and 2025 is kind of the peak that, right? We get Musk swinging the chainsaw, we get Steve Bannon sig heiling around the place, and we also got groups like the Third Term Project that showed up. So they are the folks that are proposing a resolution to amend the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution to allow presidents who have served 2 non-consecutive terms to seek a third term. And they promote, obviously, the idea of Trump running for a third term. Their argument being that the second term doesn't count unless it's connected to the first term.
Yeah, they have a few different arguments. There's that,
Yeah.
and then they'll also, because they claim that it was stolen from them, that it was Biden was not actually elected. It was all fake votes or whatever. So that's another kind of talking point they use for justifying a third term.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the folks and the influencers that you see at the American CPACs are now filtering out to these foreign CPACs. And what we saw in Poland was a very, very tight presidential race that I think you would have to say, at least in some way, was influenced by this CPAC event, right? This is one big last rally before the vote. It's televised. You get support from all sorts of very famous conservatives that people in Poland will know, both from the region, from Europe, and from the United States. And we see, when we talked about Orban before and his policies, right? His, muzzling journalism, muzzling the courts, kind of moving against or that democratic backsliding. This is the kind of thing that we're seeing the conservative movement embrace on a global level. And what Trump is doing in a lot of ways in the U.S., Orban has already done in Hungary. And in Poland, they're already kind of there as well. So over the 10 years that the Law and Justice Party has held the presidency, or have been affiliated with the president, I should say, in 2017, they introduced a series of judicial reforms that they got through that they said were about improving efficiency in the justice system.
Mm-hmm.
And, the sparked huge protests because they were actually seen as undermining judicial independence from the government. The European Union itself started an investigation about this, because to be a member of the EU, you have to follow certain liberal democratic norms. And there was risk that constituted a breach of that rule of law. Now, that's not all they've done as well. They've also made sure that LGBTQ plus Poles don't have rights and protections that they would have in other parts of the EU, other parts of Europe.
Because if any group of people's been getting away with way too much and needs a real wake-up call, it's the LGBTQ community.
They've also caused a bit of a constitutional crisis in Poland, the Law and Justice Party, by packing their constitutional court, which I believe is similar but different from a Supreme Court. I do not know enough about Polish politics to tell you exactly how.
Yeah.
With its supporters, with people who agree with them politically, which undermines parliamentary procedure. And it's had the effect of reducing the president's and the prime minister's powers. So those kind of dual executives have less power, and more of the power is being constituted with the party itself, which is not particularly democratic. And the government has also moved to curtail the activity of non-government organizations and independent media, restrict freedom of speech and assembly, and they've also been accused of reducing the requirements for the civil service so that they could stuff those government positions with party loyalists.
Yeah.
Again, we're working off the same playbooks, right? If it works in Hungary, if it works in Poland, works in the United States, and so at some point, the broader conservative movement around the world realized that they were all basically going after the same types of things, and their supporters wanted the same types of policies. The biggest, strongest conservative movement, and by that I mostly mean monetarily and influence-wise, which is the American conservative movement, where they already have so many organizations and systems in place to support conservative lawmakers and to elect conservative lawmakers, it's very easy for them to transfer these tactics abroad to places that already have this kind of conservative mindset or have established conservative parties that are very close to power. What I want to say is when you're looking at conservative movements from now on, consider that what you might be seeing isn't just something domestic, right? It's not domestic to Poland, the Polish conservative movement at this point, right? They've gone international by bringing in these Americans, by inviting Viktor Orban. So they're not necessarily representing the views of conservative Poles, right? All politics is local, is the saying, but it's not anymore. It is a wider, deeper, and more organized movement. There's nothing like this for the left, and there's nothing like this for the center. The right wing is tremendously good at organizing, and that's why they've been so successful. They never generally win on popular votes in Europe or in North America.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually quite rare for conservatives to win a majority in terms of the popular vote. But there are levers, of course, in the United States, famously gerrymandering, redrawing districts to suit your political affiliation. They're very good at making the votes they count and organizing so that they have a advantage over their centrist or leftist opponents. And I think this is a new era of global conservatism that we're seeing that really doesn't have an equal opposite force at the moment pushing back against it. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. And I use interesting generously. And,
yeah. I mean, if anyone's just off of that a little scared, just remember that at least within these kind of conservative movements, there's so much infighting and so many, like, there's really no unity. There's no trust amongst any of them. It seems like they're willing to turn on each other so quick. I'd say it's a snake eating its own tail, but there's so many weirdos in there. It's more like a hydra eating its own ass. So we can at least be confident that, they're slowing themselves down as much as they're, kind of charging forward. So there's still time to kind of, fight back. So just so if people aren't too upset after all that.
And you're 100% right. Not everything goes their way, right? Conservative politics can work, and we've seen them work around the world, but just as often we've seen voters reject the conservative message, especially the kind of new conservatives that we've encountered in the last 10, 15 years. And I don't want to be doom and gloom about it. What I really want to say is, if you are politically involved and if you disagree with this, getting organized with like-minded people is a very powerful thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where we'll leave it tonight. This has been a really interesting one. It's nice to get out and stretch our legs outside of America every now and again. And hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. And for myself and Josh, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on your podcast platform of choice, and tell all your friends. The Politics of New America is hosted by Nathan Stone and produced by Josh Carmody. You can follow us on Blue Sky at Politics New America.
This has been a Haunted Mouse production. Cut that out.